Hi, and welcome to episode 64 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm Wren.
And I'm River.
And today we're going to be talking about the witching hour.
Yes. And might I say, boo bitches. It's glad to be back. Okay. So I have to explain. So I'm sorry it's been so long. I did post this on Facebook and some of y'all have responded and thank you for your good wishes. But between Wren's schedule and my dad, it's been really difficult to be here. My dad's been sick, so I've been traveling out of state back and forth. And then he passed away on October 16th. So it's been a long few months and I just didn't have it in me to be able to podcast or do notes while my dad was in the condition he was in. So I'm still not 100%, but talking to you guys helped. So I'm very excited for this episode.
Yeah, I know, like between like everything and this year it's just been a terrible year altogether. Just like anything.
I feel like it's been since 2020, since COVID. I feel like things have been awful.
I mean, if we want to talk about like bad years, like I want to say last year was a terrible year for me health-wise because I tore, like, I work out. So I tore my bicep muscle and hold on, my cat is licking out of one of my bowls. Stop. So I tore one of my bicep muscles and I had to be in a sling for the longest time. And I think it was about 2 months. And then towards the end of that, while I was healing, I had 1 week left in my sling. I literally rolled my ankle and sprained it so bad I had to be put in a boot.
You did that at my house.
Yes, I did. I rolled. My husband was with me and he said it was the most dramatic fall. It was like I rolled my ankle and at the time, I think I was a little bit heavier, so I had all this weight on me, and I had just stepped funny, and so all of my weight had like pressed down on my ankle, and I rolled. And he explains it as like the most dramatic fall because my legs went over my body down the hill and then back around. So like I did a 2-time, and my feet were just in the air, and
I had already said goodbye to her. Little did I know that Wren is out in my front yard doing gymnastics.
And last year was also the year I was diagnosed with celiac disease.
Yeah.
And so like the ankles, like I sprained my ankle like more towards like April, summer. I had like a terrible cold sickness thing. August hit, my stomach was terrible. And then October, I got diagnosed with celiac disease.
Yeah.
And so last year for me was health-wise, but it's just been like a series of unfortunate events for everyone that I know.
That's a book.
Yeah, I know. And that's my life right now. It's my life right now.
A series of unfortunate events. Yeah, I feel like it's been that way since COVID. I just, I don't know.
I mean, that's how I am. It's just like one thing after another. And it's like small things where I was just it was a day. It was a terrible day. And I was at work and the button on my pants broke.
Today?
It was just like sometime in the past month this happened. And it was like a terrible day. And then I was at work and that same day, the button on my pants broke. And it was like, it's just been like small things like that, where that was like the last straw, like just in general. And it was just,
that makes me think of the movie Drag Me to Hell for some reason. Okay, so it's October and I've been watching horror movies every day. My poor husband, he suffers through the movies that I pick. And I did watch Drag Me to Hell, and that's where it was the button that was cursed. And anyway, it's a good one if y'all haven't seen it. It's old, so be prepared for old cinematics and whatever, but the storyline is great. I loved it. And the acting was really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, what are you drinking?
Well, right now we're recording at an odd hour because, it's so hard to figure out when to record, when to do anything,
when to get us both together at the same time.
I know. And so right now I'm drinking a pumpkin coffee you actually got me this pumpkin coffee.
Yes, I did.
And because for my birthday, I got an espresso, spoiled a little bit. And I commented on, I told you, I was like,
Yeah.
man, like pumpkin right now. Cause I can't go to Starbucks anymore, because they have a lot of cross contamination with gluten products. And so I just can't get Starbucks anymore. And so I've been wanting, I am one of those girlies that likes their pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as you told me that you had an espresso, I was like, oh, I've got to get her these. So I
Yes.
ordered them for her. She loves them.
I love them so much, and so does my husband.
I was going to say, what's really funny is I think your husband loves them more than you do.
And
that's
so
hilarious.
that's what I'm drinking right now. But I do have a little small update before you tell us what you're drinking.
Okay.
My hair is orange now.
It sure is.
It's been a while, and I don't think we've podcast since I've dyed my hair.
No, I've only seen you through FaceTime and stuff. I don't think I've seen you in person. Maybe I have. I don't know. With my dad passing and being gone, I feel like I haven't seen you in 50 million years. I don't know.
I know. But my hair is orange. Well, it's kind of orange. It's like the
it's
front
so cool
half
looking.
is orange and the back half is dark brown. I've been having fun with my hair, and I was like, hey, why the hell not dye my hair for the fall and get into the fall mood? Because I know this whole time we haven't had time to just sit down and appreciate that it's Halloween or watch scary movies or do anything. Yeah. And so I might as well be festive through my hair.
Yeah, my poor kids. I usually go out. Halloween is my holiday. And so I usually decorate the house, and we have wonderful parties, and we do the get-togethers on the weekends and watch scary movies. And then, of course, I haven't been here to do any of that stuff. So our house isn't decorated. I'm going to just have to skip. Once Halloween is over, I'm just going to decorate for Christmas. So at least it gets done.
Yeah.
Because I'm so afraid something else is going to happen.
I know. I'm just telling you right now, I know that we're planning a little Halloween party. Yes. And I'm going to come and I'm going to renify your place, because I know you didn't have a chance to decorate, but I'm going to be bringing cute little dishes so that at least like the tablecloth and the little plates and platters that we have with food are going to be festive.
So I think we'll do it outside since it's getting cooler. My sister bought me a skull that you put in bonfires, and it looks like flames are coming out of the skull. She knows me well. So we will be doing that on that day too. And then Wren and I are getting to go and see one of our favorite podcasters in live. We are so excited. Our husbands were like, yep, you all go to that. And so the two of us are going to go to Atlanta and watch And That's Why We Drink podcast people live.
My favorite. And I know they had a tour previous, but we weren't able to go to that one.
Yeah.
And
it just didn't work.
Been a while. And when they dropped that they were coming to Atlanta, I was like, oh,
yeah, she surprised me. She bought my ticket, y'all.
I bought tickets immediately, and I went, River, we're going to Atlanta.
Yeah. So she's paying for the tickets. And I said, you know what? It's going to be late when it gets out. I'm paying for the hotel room. So we're going to go and have a little girls' night out. And I am so excited.
I am so excited. I feel like, I don't know, this is something needed.
Yes. And shout out to Em and Christine from that podcast. I'm sure they probably don't listen to us, but but we love them. They are so funny.
We love them so much. I mean, I swear, outside of our podcast, they're the only podcast that I listen to. like the only podcast. And I'll try to start another podcast. And I mean, other podcasts are great, but they're just not Em and Christine.
Right. And I mean, I'm still looking for other witchy podcasts, because, we're still learning our craft, and I am very interested in what other witches do. And so every now and then when I have time, I'll try to pick up an episode. And I haven't found one that's really clicked with me yet, but we're still looking. So if y'all know of any, send us an email or go to our website and tell us about other podcasts, because we'd love that.
Okay. Sorry. We got very off topic.
We did. So drink.
Wait. Yeah.
No.
I was going to say, like, he was like, you can tell we haven't done this in a while.
We haven't even seen each other in forever.
I know. Okay, go
So
ahead.
I am drinking, and my husband is actually the one that came up with this one. He's kind of excited about our planned cocktail book that we're writing. So he made this one up. I've now got my husband in on making drinks too. And I'm calling this one the Thinning Veil, which because Samhain is the time of the thinning veil.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
So it is 1/2 orange liqueur, which he uses the high dollar stuff, the Grand Marnier, and 1/2 whiskey, which he uses Four Roses, which is another fairly expensive whiskey. And that's it. It is a mixture of those two things. And it is wonderful and dark and perfect for Halloween. And I added my own little thing, which he said gross too, but I added a chocolate, what are those little round things, that little chocolate candy?
Like
not a bonbon. What are those little, I don't know. Anyway, it's got a little round chocolate candy that I put in it, and it's kind of melting into the drink. My mouth is watering.
Like a truffle?
Like a truffle, yeah.
There's a lot of chocolate candies out there.
and I have a box of different ones. So I just picked one and threw it in, and you can see it in the drink. It's kind of, the chocolate is kind of melting into it. So y'all, it is fantastic. And I do recommend the higher quality of the orange liqueur and the higher quality whiskey. I'm not a huge whiskey fan, but this one is dark and delicious, just like my soul. So
we should probably make a pumpkin drink.
We should.
Like a pumpkin pie or something. And hey, my pumpkin pie is the best pumpkin pie.
It is. And I didn't get to carve pumpkins this year. I usually do pumpkin seeds. That's one of my favorite parts about the fall is pumpkin seeds.
My husband and I, we are carving pumpkins tonight, hopefully, because right now he's at work and he has a hard job. And I actually carved one pumpkin earlier this week because I was able to spare a little bit of time immediately after my classes. And I hung out with some of my friends and we carved some pumpkins.
Did you keep the seeds?
I did not, because we were where we did it. It was inconvenient to
Yeah.
And so I have other pumpkins that my husband and I are going to carve, and I can bring those to you.
That would be awesome.
I can
if you bring some to the party on Saturday, maybe I can make some pumpkin seeds. I use my air fryer, y'all, and I put all the spices in. I like savory, so I'd use garlic and chili powder and salt, pepper, that kind of thing, as opposed to the sweet. You can also do sweet pumpkin seeds with the sugars, the brown sugars, and that kind of thing too. But I like the savory. So yeah, I'll make some of those on Saturday.
Yeah.
When you come over. All right. So the witching hour. I've been interested in this topic, but I don't know anything about it. So that was why I wanted to research it. And so what is it? According to Wikipedia and folklore. Okay, these drinks, y'all, I'm not kidding. You should try them, but be careful. In folklore, the witching hour, also called the devil's hour, and I'll get to that in a minute, is a time of night that is associated with supernatural events whereby witches, demons, and ghosts are thought to appear and be at their most powerful. Definitions vary, including the hour immediately after midnight or the time in between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning.
See, listen, 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock is alien hour.
See, and that probably is associated with this witching hour thing. A whole bunch of cultures have witching hour thoughts, so it can't just be a Christian, idea, although Christianity did play its role in some definitions of it, but it is all over the world. So very cool. But
I also, I'm going to interject because I said aliens, and I think I was abducted by aliens when I was younger and recently.
Well, that explains it.
No, but I'm being serious. I'm going to derail off of the witching hour again, but I hope you guys enjoy a long episode of just ranting. Okay.
It's been a long time. Hopefully they want to hear us talk for a little bit.
Oh, I hope so. Otherwise, just skip ahead.
All right. Tell me about these abductions.
Okay. So when I was younger, like I always had like quote unquote visions and like stuff and like weird things that always happened to me as a kid. But I had my appendix taken out when I was like 9. Okay. But they went through my belly button. No incision marks, no nothing. Everything was through my belly button. Okay. And so as I'm growing up, I have little tiny, and they're probably like not even half an inch to an inch of like incision marks. They're not as big as an inch. They're like half and they look surgical, and it's in a triangle. One is like right below my stomach, like right below my stomach line. Okay. One is on the other side, like over where like, like your ovaries would be. And then one is up a little bit. So it's like a triangle. And I tried to explain this to my mother and she wouldn't listen to me. Okay.
That's creepy.
I know. And it was like, it's like a triangle and it's like little tiny incision marks and it's like surgical because they're literally horizontally, like they're perfectly horizontal.
It forms a triangle?
Yeah, it forms a triangle. Okay. And I recently went out of town. Okay. And I wake up and my arm is hurting so bad. Like, how when you get a vaccination?
Yeah.
And
COVID
it's like,
really killed my arms.
And it bruises and it hurts, right? When you get, when with needles, I bruise really easily.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten a vaccine in a while, like not to have a bruise. And I have a literal bruise on my arm in the shape and size of what it would be from a vaccine or a needle. Yeah. And it hurts to touch, like as if I've had a vaccine or a needle in my arm. It hurts so bad. You can see the bruise.
I can see it. Yeah. We do this podcast over YouTube. So, over Zoom. So I can see her. You all can't see her, but I can see her.
Yeah. And
it looks just like an injection point.
Yeah. And I have weird bruising on the back of my leg and on the front of my leg. So I have a tattoo on my leg, right? Mm-hmm. And it's right next to the tattoo, right? Like right below the incision marks that I've had since I was younger. I don't know where they came from. They're in a shape of a triangle and I have all this weird bruising on my body.
Are you missing time?
I think it happened when I was asleep.
So you don't know.
I have no idea.
You don't wake up and find out it's been a long time past. It's just been overnight.
It's just been overnight. And like my arm is the one that's so most concerning because I haven't gotten a vaccine and I don't have like bruising like this. Okay. Like I don't usually.
We're going to have to do an episode about UFO stuff. Even though it's not witchy, it's still unexplainable.
Yeah. And like all this bruising is just so weird in my body. And I forgot to mention, like, so it's on my right side, like right before my hip starts. It's like all in there. I have a lot of pain, like all in like the side of my hip.
Weird.
I know. And my brain, of course, my brain is like, aliens. I was abducted by aliens. Not like, oh, you just slept on your arm on like a weird dump and you have a bruise.
Is a definite puncture. Something poked you there, whether it was a needle or you walked into something that was sticking out. You would think you would remember that though.
Yeah. And I don't remember walking into anything that had like a sharp point. Yeah. So off of like the alien hour, 3 a.m. definitely scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's a thing that is tied to all of these supernatural type things at 3 a.m.
You would think as a witch, I would be like, 3 a.m. That's when I'm like powerful. That's when I can like harness my magic, but that's when I'm terrified as shit. Like I try to fall asleep before that time. And if I don't fall asleep, then I have to lay there awake until the time has passed.
That's so strange.
And I mean, it's the strangest thing. And I don't know where this came from, but I told my friends, I was like, I was abducted by aliens. And they were like, what? Yeah, they don't quite understand me like you do.
Have you told them you're a witch, or is that something that you
No,
don't?
but I
No,
told them I have like a psychic ability where I can basically talk to dead people. And one of
Mhm.
my friends, she was like, me too. Like she was like, she said it sounds crazy to talk about, so she never talks about it. But I
Mhm.
blurted it out and she goes, actually me too. And so, yeah, like she's the one who I know definitely her and I are very much alike in that aspect.
Well, neat.
Yeah, but
Huh.
I think she just doesn't talk about it. Yeah.
Well, back to the witching hour.
Yeah, sorry.
It's
Alien
okay.
hour.
It makes me think of our discussions that we've had about in between places. We did an episode where we talked about in between places like doorways and stuff. And I'm thinking maybe the witching hour is one of these in between times, like the in between time between light when dark is at its darkest, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, what about those places that have darkness more than the average, like Alaska, or, where it's
Yeah.
dark all the time? Then what would be the darkest hour? Because
Maybe the whole plane in that time period, because it's like 6 months on, 6 months off.
yeah. So
And so
maybe
it's like
during,
that whole plane.
or
And
if
Alaska has a lot of like those stories where it's
they
like, oh, I
do,
saw blah blah blah. Maybe we're gonna dive deeper.
yeah, there is a thing called the Alaska Triangle too, which is a cool thing.
I wrote a paper on that.
Did you?
I know that sounds so funny. It was actually for school. I wrote a paper on it. I got an A because my professor thought it was cool.
But I'm thinking, okay, so in Alaska, when they have 6 months of, or wherever it is that has 6 months of darkness, does that mean the witching hour is at the 3 month point? I mean, I don't know. It's
I
just
don't know.
interesting to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it seems like magical powers are always associated with darkness for some reason, instead of,
Mhm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
go out on a picnic and practice magic. You just don't,
Yeah.
people don't say that. It's
No.
always associated with darkness. But honestly, the sun holds a lot of power too,
Mhm.
and I think I'll have to research that idea as well. Why is magic, or at least this paranormal, supernatural, alien stuff, always associated with darkness as opposed to light?
I think because, and tell me if I'm wrong. Okay.
Okay.
This is my assumption. People think of bad as dark, right? So anytime that you have no light, which light does associate, like in all forms of religions, light is always the best. Like,
Yeah. Mythologies,
heaven,
all of
hell,
that. Mm-hmm.
everything, right?
Light and dark.
And so when it's dark outside, people kind of associate, darkness with scary, with, and they don't, and it's the things that they don't understand is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They're scared of what they don't understand, and they don't understand darkness.
Well, I think,
long story, like I have a lot more in my head, but short scheme, people don't understand something and they're scared of it, and they don't understand darkness.
I agree. And darkness also grants that anonymous protection of the dark. So people who venture out, like, serial killers or whatever, they do that by the cover of night because it grants that protection of anonymity in the dark.
See,
and so,
okay. Off of that, I have childhood trauma.
Oh Lord.
Okay.
Other than the alien abduction, more childhood trauma.
Well, yeah, because I see shadow people.
Oh.
And I don't like to say to say it out loud. I don't like to say it out loud because it gives them acknowledgement and it makes them know that I can see them. And so this is the only time I'm going to be able to say that. Like, I'm going to say that once, done, out loud. I don't see them.
Okay.
Wink, wink. Okay.
She's winking. Yes.
And so my parents always told me, I have always had to have a nightlight. Okay. I to this day, I cannot sleep in total darkness. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, and you could, as a psychologist or therapist or whoever, you can analyze my trauma and be like, oh, well, you're scared of the dark because of your trauma. Okay. But what caused this trauma? Maybe because I had a babysitter who used to lock me in a closet. Long story short, dark trauma. Okay. I don't like darkness. And where was I going with this? Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Oh no.
we were
had a
talking
point.
about how darkness can give you the protection of anonymity
Yeah.
and
Okay, there we go. My parents always told me it, like with the night lights, if I just turn off the light, close the door, nothing could see you. You know, like you in the darkness, even though you can't see anything, like you are also
they
hidden.
can't see you either. Oh,
Yeah. But
interesting.
with my sense, that's not true. That's not true. They can see
Yeah.
me just fine.
Aliens might be able to see, they might have
Yeah.
infrared vision.
Yeah. I mean, and who's to say shadow people, okay, shadow figures, whatever you want to call them, they have this other sight. Like just because like they live in the darkness, they can see. So having the whole room dark hinders my ability to
But
see
not
them.
them. Yeah. I
Yeah.
see.
And so when I was younger, my parents would be like, oh, like just turn off the lights. You're going to be fine. You know, like I think it was my dad who was like, if you can't see them, they can't see you. But, and I didn't understand this when I was younger, but I knew that they could see me.
I feel like children have that. You know how kids will pull the covers over their heads with this illogical thing that,
I
I
never
can't
did that.
see them, so they can't see me.
Yeah, I never did that. I think maybe because I have this sense and it's like I mean, I'm also an empath. So
Right.
I can feel what other people are feeling. And it's like a sense I could hear them. I could feel them. And I knew that they were there and I knew that they knew I was there.
See, I talk about empaths later. And my thought was that empaths can feel, during the day, we have so many other distractions for an empath. You're surrounded by people. So you're catching all of their vibes. And yet at night, it's very quiet. So that would be the time that you would be able to sense things that aren't necessarily human or aren't of this world because there are no other humans near you to block your senses.
Yeah. And I think I've kind of I can turn it off. I have taught myself to turn it off.
I am an empath as well, and I cannot turn it off. And so I have horrible time. I
don't know how I was able to teach myself that, but I think it was a way for me to be able to survive.
Yeah. Self-preservation.
And so
for sure.
I think I kind of hurt myself, but also helped myself. So like on a daily, I can just turn it off and I'm completely fine. But if I leave it off and I don't know, like I don't remember that I have it off, like I just is like in my head. So I kind of hurt myself because I'm not able to be aware of what's around me when I'm alone.
Yeah.
And so I can't sense like those types of things. And I don't like to turn it on because when I turn it on, I can feel everything and I can hear everything. And I feel like when I turn it on, I also get like I can hear people and people are trying to talk to me. And like, I know I've discussed this where it's like somebody's trying to speak to me and they're like, water, water, water. I'm like, I don't want, like, I wish I could help you. But as soon as I open that gate, there's no closing it. Like I can't do that. And I'm not at the time in my life. And I don't know if I ever will be to be able to open that.
It probably is going to take training by someone who also has your talent to teach you. That's what you need to do is to learn how to control what you've got. Yeah. Because you don't really want to ignore it.
I don't know what to do. Like, I need somebody, I need help.
There's too many things going on right now. So you haven't had time to self-explore.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do some shadow work and see where that takes you. Although that's a scary, scary thing.
It really is. And I don't know if I want to go down that road, that path.
I agree.
I also have a fear of if something's trying to talk to me, how do I know that it's actually what it's claiming to be?
True fear.
I don't like that. I don't like that. And I know I don't see these shadow things. Wink, wink. So I don't want that associated to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yet here I am going, I practice, I'm a witch, but I don't know. I'm more of the light, fluffy, I harness nature and I don't want anything to do with that side. And there's nothing wrong if you do, but
of course
it scares
not.
the shit out of me.
Yeah. So back to in between times.
Maybe this episode should literally just be us chit chat.
It's been so long, y'all, and hopefully you are enjoying our chit chat. But if the witching hour is an in between time, then I think the time would change, because if it's the halfway point between light and light. So like here, we live in Georgia. So tonight, sunset is at 6:49 p.m. and it rises tomorrow at 7:49 in the morning. So that would put the halfway point at 1:10 in the middle of the night. So that's not midnight. That's not 3. That's not 3 to 4. It would change, but, like we're getting shorter and shorter days. So that time frame is shifting. Of course, that's only if the witching hour is actually an in-between time, which is just a theory.
Yeah.
It might not be. On the other hand, the way our time works with the new day that starts at midnight, 24 hours in a day, even in military time, midnight 0, and then you start the new day, that could be midnight would then be an in-between time between one day and the next.
Yeah.
I don't know. I read a blog doing this research, and it was an article about all SBAT's phases of the moon. I guess that's a book that they were talking about, which we talk about Sabbats, and Wicca is the one that has the Sabbats and the SBATs. And I probably am not pronouncing that correctly, but, I don't know about the SBATs. We'll have to do an episode on that, because I'm curious what's the difference between a Sabbat and an SBAT, which our listeners are now going, oh my God, they're so ignorant. But anyway, we'll look it up at some point. But anyway, it was called, it says in this article that the witching hour usually refers to the midnight hour during a full moon. It is always regarded as a particularly potent time for magic, as the moon is not waxing nor waning, and midnight is considered the time between the days, in between time, in between worlds. During the full moon, time, all magic work is empowered, all magic work is futile. And that was a quote from that article. So there are other people out there who have also thought that maybe this witching hour is an in-between time. Now, in Japan, this was interesting to me. According to a Japanese tradition, the witching hour is at the moment of and a little before and after sunset.
Oh.
According to this tradition, at that moment, the veil between the worlds, just for that few seconds, vanishes, and the supernatural phenomenon can happen on their own during that time, that one specific time.
Oh.
Which I feel like there was an old Charmed episode, not the new series, the old one, about in-betweens. I think we've talked about it before.
Oh, it's been a while since I've seen that show. I do remember talking about it.
Yeah. And then another thing that this makes me think about is the power of 3. If it's really 3 a.m., we've talked about the
I didn't
power
even
of
think
3.
of that. Yeah.
3 is a magic number. So it isn't surprising that 3 a.m. might be considered the witching hour. But then again, I've read that, it's midnight. So, I also remember it being called the time of day where no one is normally out. That's what makes it the witching hour, where it's a quiet time, so to speak, in the world. Like 2 p.m., workers have had their lunch. They're back at work. Kids aren't released from school yet. It's a quiet time. Or 5 p.m. on a Sunday. There's no rush hour. Everybody's already at home. They've gone to church or done whatever their stuff is. They're preparing for the coming week. So that's another time that's called the witching hour, which I find fascinating. Did you know? Did you know? In the movie The Conjuring, you remember that movie? It's one of the best horror movies ever. The clocks always stopped at 3:07 a.m.
Yes, I do remember that.
Right during the witching hour. And movies have taken that idea of...
Yes, they have.
That demons love to attack during this hour. So you'll see that a lot. But in reality, many demonic possessions reportedly happen during this time.
Oh,
If, I don't know, I'm not Christian or Catholic, but demonic possessions apparently happen more at this time than if there is such a thing, than any other hour in a day.
I just recently heard that apparently, I can't remember where, but apparently somewhere on this planet, I know I've narrowed it down, somewhere on this planet that in today's time, there are more exorcisms occurring today, like in this time period, than have ever occurred. And
Really?
I can't remember. Yes, I remember seeing something. I don't know if it's real or fake. But I think I saw something that exorcisms are happening
See, I feel like there is something to these quote possessions. I don't believe in demons or devils, but that doesn't mean that something's not happening. It might be something supernatural. It might be something magical. It might be something alien. It could be demonic. I'm not saying I know everything, but there is definitely something to those things, whether they're people that are mentally unstable. The stories we see in the movies always get taken totally out of context.
Oh yeah, I bet you some people just mistook schizophrenia or a mental disability and just went, "Oh, you're possessed by a demon."
Shit. Back in the day, just being a female that had a brain was considered being demonic. Yeah.
I've been since it's October. Off topic again. Since it's October, I've been watching a lot of asylum. Like ghost, like not like movies. I mean, yes, that too, but also like people going to what's the word? Wow, I can't think of the word. They're going to
I have no idea what you're talking about.
They're going to record evidence of ghost activity.
Oh, the ghost hunter type people.
Yeah, experiment is not the word. Investigate. It's investigate. They're going to investigate. So I've watched a lot of investigations on asylums and a lot of the history, and it's multiple locations. A lot of the history is like, oh yeah, anybody in this certain time frame would be thrown in here just because, somebody said something to somebody and they didn't like it, or a woman had her period.
Right. That is 100%.
The husband didn't want to deal with her anymore, or the husband didn't love or want to be with his wife anymore. So he just made an excuse to put that woman in an asylum and then went and had another family,
Yeah. Yeah.
It happened.
It did. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's delve into the history of the witching hour.
Yes.
So the phrase witching hour was first recorded in 1793. However, this seems to have begun actually around 1535 when the Catholic Church forbade activities to take place between 3 and 4 a.m.
Do you think it's because the Catholic Church knew that witches and everything were more powerful at this time? So they're like, nope.
Probably so. I think that was their reasoning. Okay. And this was based on religious texts that stated that the belief that Jesus, and I've talked about this before too, that Jesus was crucified at 3 p.m. and the reverse of 3 p.m. is 3 a.m. So I know I've talked about this in an episode before, but that makes it the time of demonic activity, which is why the witching hour is also sometimes called the devil's hour.
Okay.
And then the number 3 is also a mockery of the Holy Trinity. So 3 a.m. would be a great time for demons to come out and, do their thing as, opposing the forces of Christianity, Catholicism, whatever. So also, it was considered shameful if a woman was seen out between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m., which ultimately led priests to tie that hour to witches, of course, because any woman who is out between midnight and 4 has to be a witch, of course.
Of course. It's not like they had too much to drink the night before and fell asleep in a bush.
Right. Wow. You talking from experience there?
No.
The New Zealand Oxford Dictionary identifies midnight as the time when witches are supposedly active. I don't know about you all, but I've got kids. I'm in bed by 10 o'clock these days. I'm not going to be up for any witching hour. I'm sorry.
Honestly.
Although I must say, being October and Halloween, I might be tempted out of bed at midnight if it's for some midnight margaritas.
And then you'll end up in a bush.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And then I'd be out between midnight and 4 and, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the phrase was written in a poem in 1775, and that poem is called Night, an Ode by Reverend Matthew West, which I could not find the text to.
Oh, okay.
In the 1800s, during the spiritualist movement, midnight was the prime time for seances, because there was that time, here in the United States too, where seances were a thing. It was all, popular. And when they did the seances, it was always at midnight. And then speaking of ghost hunters, like you were talking about, ghost hunters would have you believe that the barrier between our world and the world of the supernatural is weaker, more penetrable during this witching hour. Ghosts, poltergeists, and other apparitions require less energy to make contact with the living. And therefore, communication happens to be more frequent at this time. And then, you've seen those movies or you've heard those things where the chair slides across the floor by itself, and of course, it's always at nighttime. And that could be because this is the time where it's not as hard for them to be able to communicate across.
Wow.
I know this drink is good, across that veil, so to speak.
That's very interesting because, you always watch those, those movies or shows or whatever, or read a book, and you're like, oh, why does it always happen at night? Why never during the day? Then it makes sense.
The witching hour explains that. So sensitives, kind of like you, are people who by their very nature are more attuned to the world of the dead, and they tend to have more empathic experiences in the dead of night as well.
Yeah.
Which goes with what you were talking about.
Yeah, I agree. I lay in bed and I'll hear random stuff and I'm like, nope, 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 nope. And I turn it off. It's like when I'm like falling asleep and it's like my switch is like, lessening because I'm like in between
your consciousness.
Sleep and, yeah.
Maybe it's because these places are often quieter. You don't have a whole bunch of people around you distracting you. And so we're able to more readily register and take notice of those energies that are around us.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I'm an empath too. And I often have a hard time in the day when so many people are around me. But at night, when it's quiet and there aren't that many active conscious minds around me, I can see that it would make more sense that a medium or another sensitive would be able to feel energies more accurately. In the summer of 1816, and you may know this, but this is a really cool fact. A small collection of writers, artists, and visionaries gathered together to form an impromptu group where they would exchange views, opinions, philosophies, and even story ideas. Mary Shelley was a member of that group. She is the one who wrote Frankenstein.
Oh,
right. Female back in the 1800s. How cool is that? Early 1800s.
Yeah, but you never hear of like the author.
I know. Well, we all know
Frankenstein.
We all know now that it's Mary Shelley.
But
in her book, she says, this is a quote from the book. Night waned upon this talk, and even the witching hour had gone by before we retired to rest. So she says the witching hour. And that was in 18, I think she wrote the book in 1831. I don't know. Don't hold me to that, but somewhere around there. But in 1601, Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, and he talks about what I think is the witching hour. He says, "'Tis now the very witching time of night, when churchyards yawn and hell itself breathes out contagion into this world." How cool is that? So that's in 1601 where Shakespeare had the concept of the witching hour. A large percentage of sleeping paralysis takes place during this time as well.
Oh, I don't like talking about sleep paralysis.
Yeah. During the Dark Ages, of course, superstitious people believed that witches and demons were actually responsible for sleep paralysis, along with their misfortunes. Puritans believed that witches carried out their rituals during that time. Of course, they were dark rituals. Rituals, as we've said before, when everybody was asleep, to avoid helping get caught. There's that anonymity of darkness thing. So I was trying to find some actual true experiences that people had reported during the witching hour. So I've got several of them, and I'll just go through them and you can make your comments or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, it says, I fell asleep next to a guy. I woke up after an intense episode of sleep paralysis with a weird dream / hallucination of this demon girl crawling across me. The guy next to me looked peaceful, so I didn't wake him up. The next morning, he described the exact same dream along with sleep paralysis. I never told him I had the same dream. Too fucking weird.
Why not? I would be like, yo, I had the same dream. Like, what the heck is going on? Like,
I think a lot of people are afraid. I mean, if you bring attention to it, like you, that with your creatures that you see, that thought that if you bring attention to it, it might come back. I don't know.
Yeah.
The next one says, when I was about 5 or 6, I woke up and saw an old woman standing in the doorway of my bedroom. Of course, doorways are in betweens. So
that's
saying.
Very true. See, now I want to be able to close my door. See, when we had my dog, she would sleep. I know this is terrible, but she snored so loud. It was terrible. So she slept, she has a large room, living room, a beautiful bed. She wasn't neglected. She was a very well taken care of dog, but she had to sleep in the living room. Okay. So we would always close the door, and I like it when our bedroom door is closed when I sleep. But now that we have a cat, we like to let her come in and out as she pleases. And so she'll sleep at my feet, but her litter box and her food and water are out in the living room. So we want her to be able to get to those while we're asleep. So we leave the door open, but I hate it. I hate it so much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So this old lady standing in the doorway.
Yeah. Sorry.
She didn't say anything, just looked at me silently and stood there, but I was filled with the most horrible sense of dread I've ever felt in my life. I was absolutely terrified of this woman, and I hid under my covers. That's what we were talking about. If I can't see her, she can't see me.
It's not how it works, man.
And would peek out every few minutes to see if she was there. After what felt like hours, but was probably only like 15 minutes, she was gone when I looked. I ran into my parents' room crying, and my dad searched my room and the rest of the house, but couldn't find anyone. I slept with them for the rest of the night. I never did find a good explanation for what I saw, but a lot of other weird things happened in that house before we moved a few years later. Scariest thing I've ever seen to this day.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it could have been a grandma, like an old lady, but it could not have been. Like, it was taking the form of an old lady.
It could have. Yeah, we don't know.
Okay, listen, I'm going off. I'm on topic, but little history. Okay, so with these shows that I watch with investigations and everything, there's this. I'll just go ahead and give them a shout out because people probably have already heard them, and they do very well on YouTube. But their names are Sam and Colby. And they do a lot of, they go to these places and investigate. Now they are a little goofy. So they just like goof around to not, they try to keep it light. But when it comes to investigating, they're very serious. Okay. And they are trying to confirm that, a lot of people have sleep paralysis where they see the man with the top hat, and it's
Slender Man.
Slender Man, but the Slender Man and the top hat guy are different.
Oh,
they're different, and people with children and all of that, right? Like there's something called the twins and stuff like that. I don't like talking about it.
Okay.
And so they were trying, like in all of their investigations where people have spotted these creature things, they're trying to understand if they can be in multiple locations at once. like it
Oh.
all at the same time, because how can this person have the exact same sleep paralysis at the same time this person is also having it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so low key, they kind of in a couple of their episodes back to back are like slowly piecing together that I think that these things can be in multiple places, like appearing at the same time. And so then
Interesting.
what the heck are these things to be able
Yeah.
to manifest that way?
And do these things happen during the witching hour by any chance?
It's always at night.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and it's just the creepiest thing. But of course, I'm sitting there with the blanket up to my face, like I need to see what's happening, like what's going to happen next. But oh my goodness, like, and it's so interesting, and they're doing it based off of like investigation and trial and error, and kind of like a scientific method. You know, I like the science,
right?
And they're doing
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
and
the
it's
way to do it,
cool.
I think.
Yeah,
to
it's just
try to prove these
ugh.
things.
It's just so interesting. So, like, if that old lady was standing in the doorway of that person, how many other doorways was that thing standing in?
Mm-hmm. All right, here's the next one. It was just after midnight one Friday night, Saturday morning, when my wife and I were talking downstairs, just about ready to turn in, when the landline phone started ringing. My first thought was, oh God, something bad has happened to somebody and they're to be calling at this hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up the phone and saw on the display that it was showing my wife's cell phone. I turned to her and asked her where her phone was, thinking that maybe she had left it somewhere and someone had found it and was trying to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it was upstairs. Yeah. So I gave her a sort of withering Sheldon look. I love that. And answered the phone. I said hello, but nobody answered. So I handed the phone to my wife and went upstairs to look for the phone. It was there, resting face down on the side of the bed. When I picked it up, it was all lit up, showing that it was calling our landline. So how did a smartphone unlock itself with the correct security code, navigate the contacts, find our home number, and call it on its own?
Oh my gosh, this reminds me, when I was a kid, our own house used to call itself.
Oh, weird.
We had, it wasn't like the old phones where you like, the
yeah,
like the little circle, blah, 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 it wasn't like one of those. It was like, it was a landline, but it was like, it had a screen and it showed you who was calling. And our house was haunted. Like, I know it was. Like, I had things touch my face in the middle of the night. My sisters have always had their own stories, and only now did we find out all of us have had similar experiences, just talking about it as adults.
Creepy.
And so our phone, like our house would call itself, and it would be like, it would ring and you'd go to look at who was calling, and it was the exact same number. And we were like, do we answer? What's going to happen? So you would answer and it would just be silent.
Oh, how weird.
We had no idea why that happened. It wasn't like we were
Your parents still live in that house?
Yeah.
Oh, parents, we're coming over. We're going to do a paranormal investigation of your house.
Listen. There are several rooms in that house I will not go in. Like,
really?
I don't like the back rooms at all. Because my bedroom, my bedroom, we all hopped around because we, as you grow out and other kids are growing up, like I had a little sister who had to, be thrown into a room. And so I had this room, and of course I painted it bright yellow when I was a kid. And
of course,
so it's called the yellow room. I liked it, but that one's so scary. But the yellow room I had a lot of problems with. That's where I had a lot of my sense, like I'm sensitive to the stuff, and it's the closet mostly. But in the other room, it's like literally across the hall. I moved into that one when I started like middle school, high school, and something literally touched my face in that room. Like, it was like a hand tried to like touch my face, and like,
that's creepy.
But yeah, the house likes to call itself. I don't think it does it anymore, really. I don't know. I don't know if their landline is still connected.
Most people don't have landlines anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird.
I know.
The next story is a Ouija board story.
Oh, fun.
In high school, my friends and I were messing around with a Ouija board one night. We had done it before with nothing remarkable. We usually did it to try to scare each other and our girlfriends. We were at my friend's farm at the edge of town when one of the girls wanted to try it. So that night we did, and the board misspelled some of the words the same way every time. It gave answers that seemed really historically accurate for our town, things that we neither knew nor cared about. Long story short, the spirit claimed it was a 10-year-old boy who had died on the property in the 1800s and was buried there in an unmarked grave. We were all a little freaked out because the board had never been so detailed and consistent. However, we were still skeptical, and we were all assuming one of us was trying to scare the rest. Finally, my friend asked the spirit if he could do something to prove he was there with us. It went to yes, and then it spelled out Knock. Then the planchette stopped moving. We all just stared at it silently, and then there was a rap, rap, rap on the window right next to us. The lights were on outside, and there was nobody there.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy? Here's another one in an old farmhouse. So 4 years ago, I lived in a very large farmhouse that had been converted into 2 apartments. The house was known as the old boys' home. It used to house boys with behavioral issues, but it was closed due to allegations of molestation. How horrible is that? Anyway, I was living with my boyfriend and 3-year-old daughter at the time. My bedroom had a large fireplace that had been boarded up and painted over. I decided to push my bed up against it one day while I was rearranging things so that the fireplace was like the headboard for the bed. That night, around 1 a.m., I heard a small voice saying, "Mom, Mom, Mommy." I sat up in bed but didn't see anything, so I reached over my boyfriend trying to pick up my daughter, thinking she was trying to get into our bed. I kept feeling around and was still hearing the voice, but I couldn't feel her. My boyfriend woke up and turned the bedside lamp on, asking me, "What the hell are you doing?" I explained that Amelia was trying to get into our bed and I was reaching for her. There was nobody there. My daughter was sound asleep in her room. The next night came. Around 1 a.m. again, my dog started to whimper at our door, so my boyfriend got up to take him outside. You know that feeling in bed when someone lies down next to you where the bed pushes in and there's a warmth at your back? I felt that, so I assumed my boyfriend had come back to bed. I rolled over. My boyfriend wasn't in the bed, and I felt the fucking bed release pressure. Whatever was lying next to me had gotten up in that second. I moved my bed the next day to the other side of the room, and I haven't had another incident in the 2 years I remained in that house.
That's so weird. Like, why was it just when the bed was in that location?
I don't know.
Listen.
Fireplaces are scary. I saw a movie when I was a kid. I wasn't supposed to watch it, and I snuck down the stairs, and I was watching from the stairs, and there was some movie, and I don't know what it was, but these things in the house were dragging people up the chimney. And so I would never put my bed up against a blocked chimney. I just wouldn't.
It reminds me, you just unlocked a memory that I did not want to have.
I'm sorry.
So it's from the same instance where I think I got the bruises, right? And we were out of town. It was in that house and we had slept in the basement. Okay. And we were on an air mattress, and I swear I thought I felt something. Okay. So there were like multiple of us in this basement. So we had air mattresses back to back, right?
Okay.
So there was barely any way to walk around. It was the middle of the night. It was dark. And I thought I heard somebody get up and shuffle around and pass the bed, they passed it. And it's like they put pressure on the bed.
Okay.
And I felt the pressure because my feet went.
Well, it's an air mattress.
With the air mattress. And I opened my eyes to see who was getting up, and it had stayed down as if something had sat down. And my feet had rolled into it, and I looked and there was nothing there, and everybody was asleep. And I mean, this place, I've been going there since I was a child. It's not like I randomly went to something's basement, No, I've been going there ever since I was little, and that basement has always freaked me out. And having to sleep down there, I hate it. But that moment, I just hated it because there was nothing there, but I could see and feel that something was
Was
there.
there? Oh my
And it
God.
was there. And then I was like, okay, this isn't happening. I'm dreaming. So I should just gotten up, but I like laid back down. I closed my eyes and I could feel it slowly release.
Oh my God.
I just,
Oh,
I know I just got chills. It makes me sick thinking about it. And you just unlock, like, I think my brain purposefully was like, you're not going to remember that. And then as soon as you said that with the bed pressure, I remembered that that happened to me.
oh, how creepy.
And I've always hated that basement.
Did you know that hospitals and nursing units report the most deaths between 3 and 4 in the morning?
Oh,
That was actually a study done by the Harvard Medical School, that the chances of death
really?
increase during that hour from 3 to 4 in the morning. Isn't that weird? That's so
Yes.
weird. I mean, it's a real
Yes.
study, Harvard Medical School. Okay,
Hmm.
so the next story, one of the most infamous stories, and I know you've heard of this too, that took place during the witching hour was the Amityville horror story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's when Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his entire family in their beds at 3 o'clock in the morning on November 13th, 1974.
Yeah. I think we all know this one.
Yeah, everybody knows that. That was during the witching hour. It was at 3 a.m. in the morning. And he told detectives that he had previously heard voices in his head and was in a trance-like state, saying that once I started, I couldn't stop. It went so fast. And I'm pretty sure he's implied, I mean, I know the movies did, implied that it was a demonic voice that told him to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, he could be just a psychopathic killer. He could have had, schizophrenia or some other mental illness, or it really could have been a demon that was able to breach through, or I use demon loosely because whatever you believe, it was something that reached through and was able to communicate with him. Then there's an urban legend from New Mexico known as La Mala Hora, which is translated as the evil hour or the bad hour. It's the
Oh my gosh, my cat. Stop.
What was she doing?
Jumping on my husband's chair, going,
Oh, claws, man.